One of the most phenomenal games to come out of Roblox in the recent past is Pressure. This game is sort of a spiritual successor to the extremely popular Doors game, with many features and mechanics being directly inspired by it. In fact, both games have an extremely similar gameplay loop, and seeing how Doors by nature is very well executed, so is Pressure. However, although I do think the base game of Pressure is very well done, there is still a really large flaw with the overall experience. One which I think should be brought up here so it can be improved upon in the future. Today I'd like to discuss what I think is the biggest flaw in Pressure, one which somehow didn't really end up in its predecessor Doors, as well as what can be done to fix it. So with all of that being said, let's begin. Alrighty, so before I discuss what Pressure does wrong, let's talk about what it does right. You see, this game as well as Doors are a rare species of game which can be found on the internet, especially on Roblox. Both of these games, at least the base experience, are 100% skill-based. Now at first this may seem confusing, as both of these games contain some RNG elements. All games do to a certain degree. However, the difference is that the main RNG elements in both of these games don't determine the outcome of the playthrough, but instead aid it to become more unique. For example, both Doors and Pressure have random room generation, meaning almost every single room is going to be different no matter the playthrough. However, despite this, each room is always well equipped with the tools necessary to survive any threat which may appear. Any danger you can encounter can 100% be combated with knowledge and skill, meaning that the experience doesn't feel unfair in the slightest. This results in the random room generation making each run feel unique and special rather than being against the player at certain times, as it doesn't affect the gameplay. Now, as I had stated, this is true for the base game of both Doors and Pressure. With enough skill and knowledge, you can pretty easily complete the normal version of the games. This is probably the best trait any game could have. However, what if we took this aspect of fairness away? What if RNG was thrown into the mix, and it's not the kind which aids the experience as previously described? Well, unfortunately, this happens to be the case with Pressure, and that is what I would like to discuss today. You see, the end goal in any game, besides beating the main challenge, is to 100% it. In other words, that means the end goal is to experience the entirety of the game, meaning you would unlock everything that could be. Now, luckily, this is spelled out pretty clearly in both Doors and Pressure. In order to 100% both of these games, you'd need to unlock every collectible. For Doors, that would mean obtaining every badge, at least the ones which aren't limited, and for Pressure, that would mean obtaining every badge, document, and suit. Now, 100%ing any game is no easy task, and for the most part, this can be quite difficult. However, there are two types of difficulties, one being caused by skill and another being caused by luck, aka RNG. And as I had previously described, it is much better if something is difficult due to skill rather than luck, as that way it is as fair as can be. This is where my main issue with Pressure arises, that being that 100%ing the game is too reliant on RNG-based events. Let's go back to the requirements for completing 100% of Pressure so we can see why this is the case. Several badges within the game can only be obtained by encountering a rare event. For example, the Artifice badge requires you to use a special item which can only be found in two extremely rare rooms. There is no way to control encountering these rooms without being insanely lucky, meaning this badge is entirely luck-based. Another example of a heavily luck-based badge in Pressure would be the one obtained for beating the game without using any of the locker hiding spots. This one is actually pretty skill-based, which I can appreciate. However, in most cases, the random room generation can work against you, resulting in no non-locker safe spots appearing when there is a threat oncoming. This one isn't really the developer's fault, but having a badge for a very clearly heavily RNG-related challenge isn't that great of an idea. Badges aren't the only luck-based thing though, as documents are too. Now for those who don't know, documents are pieces of writing which offer additional lore for the world of the game as well as additional help for dealing with threats. Around half of the documents are obtained through interacting with entities or threats which can commonly be found throughout the playthrough. However, the other half can only be obtained by discovering certain rooms which have a rare spawn chance. Now, although I really like the concept of documents, having a lot of them being locked behind RNG-based room generation just doesn't leave a good taste in players' mouths. And later on, we would have to go through a lot of playthroughs just for the chance of receiving a new document. Overall, the process of 100% completing Pressure is around half skill-based and half luck-based, and having so many RNG-related events just doesn't feel that fair. Now, as I had stated before, although Pressure unfortunately has luck-based requirements for 100%ing the game, Doors does not. Now, although technically some aspects of 100%ing Doors are RNG based, such as finding a crucifix for the badges requiring you to use them on certain entities, it isn't nearly to the degree of what is seen in Pressure. In fact, based on my research, there only really appears to be one heavily RNG based badge in the history of Doors, and that is the Jeff the Killer badge due to the nature of the Jeff the Killer entity seen in the game mode associated with the badge. However, judging by how this badge is limited, it shouldn't be counted towards 100%ing the game. So overall, Doors has a very clean and skill-based process of completing the entirety of the game. So, with all of that being said, what can be done to fix Pressure's RNG problem? Well, first I think that many of the rare events required to 100% the game should be made more common. Sure, these events shouldn't spawn every single playthrough, but they should be common enough where it feels like you can make some progress every so often. Unless there's a complete rework of how these badges and documents are obtained, which overall doesn't seem that necessary, this seems like the best course of action. As for the more complicated RNG-related things, such as the badge obtained for beating the game without using any lockers, more extensive measures should be put into place. For example, more safe spots should be added to more rooms without them for people attempting this badge. Really, there isn't much which can be done besides toning down the luck required for 100%ing the game, and I'd honestly be content with that. Anyways, that was essentially everything I wanted to say in this video. Don't get me wrong, I think both Doors and Pressure are phenomenal games, and the developers of both truly have created masterpieces. However, when it comes to 100%ing Pressure, I feel as if there's room for improvement. Still, the base experience of the game is very well executed. So, with all of that being said, let me know your opinions on this topic in the comments. And with all of that being said, thank you all for watching and I hope you enjoyed.